Yes, graduates, welcome to Hard Talk Podcast with HTK. Fasten your seatbelts.
Hey users and subscribers, welcome back to another episode of Hard Talk with HDK. Now, this time we are going to be discussing this whole Jolyan Silvera and Melissa Silvera case that is happening. But one person may come out for really and truly ask some critical questions, and this person is Andre Stevens. Andre Stevens, listen, I came across this post on TikTok, and that is what really made me go back to listen to Andre's original video. Take a listen to the post that caught my attention.
Andre Stevens, me not understand when you say Silvera never do what him do to him wife. Me not understand. You can't elaborate for me a little bit, make me understand what you say. Because you say you not understand why him take that plea deal them. Because him know say I never him analyze him wife. Me not understand. So I know him do it, I set him up. Me not understand what you say. He's in a predicament, is what you're saying. I set him up. Some did have to take the plea deal. If do what I know him do it, me not understand. Elaborate the for me, Mr. Andre Stevens, because me need clarity. Because the man take out him wife. Yeah? So if I know him do it, why him accept it? Oh, them offer for him life.
So, Andre Stevens is basically saying that Jolyan Silvera is innocent of his wife's murder, that he should never have pleaded guilty to manslaughter, which is what he put forward to the prosecution. And of course, the DPP accepted this, and so too did the actual judge. Now, people, listen, this is one of the biggest cases of injustice that's going on right now in Jamaica. And for those of you who don't know the background of this situation, take a quick look at this video to just remind you of some key details.
Therefore, Jolyan Silvera says the former parliamentarian is not being treated as a suspect in the police's investigation into the murder of his wife. Initial reports claim that Melissa Silvera passed away suddenly in her sleep on November 10, but a recent autopsy report revealed that 3 bullet fragments were found inside her body. In a statement today, attorney Peter Champagne Casey said his client has been cooperating with the police and is not a suspect. Mr. Champagne encouraged people not to speculate and to be mindful of remarks they make, particularly on social media platforms. He adds that the police investigation must be allowed to continue without prejudice. Our news center understands that 2 properties owned by Mrs. Silvera were searched yesterday by investigators. The former MP's licensed firearm has been seized and sent to the government lab for testing.
And he maintains that he's innocent of the charge.
He has maintained his position. He has maintained his position of innocence from day one. I am not saying that he is, because I understand that there was a report to that effect. No lawyer should ever really say that, because if you were so certain, then you'd be a witness. But certainly what I can say with great emphasis is that he is indicating that he's innocent. We have our instructions, we have our job to do, and it is for the court, ultimately, and members of the jury to determine whether or not he's innocent. That's not my role. My role, our role, is to provide a defense as per our instructions. Wherever our instructions lead us, that's where we go. Within the confines always, acknowledging and consistent with the canons of the profession and the rules and good ethics. That is also to be emphasized. Thank you.
As the police continue its investigation in the murder of Melissa Silvera, on Friday, the 19th of January, 2024, after a question and answer session at the Major Investigation Division Office, about 12 midday, Jolyan Silvera, age 52 years old, land developer of 2A Diamond Court, Stony Hill, St. Andrew, was formally charged by the police, that is the Major Investigation Division, for the murder of his wife, Melissa Silvera. The investigation continues as we believe that there are other charges that will be laid against Mr. Silvera. And in this investigation, all the sciences were applied, from cyber, ballistics, telecommunications. There is a level of competence within the organization. We have the skill sets, very bright individuals who are well trained at a first world standard. And this has resulted into us achieving what we have commissioned.
On getting the report at our division, we visited the scene and we observed some things that were not normal. As such, we employed the services of all our technical experts from ballistics, from the CFCD, and other technical persons, and it has proven to us that some of our suspicions were correct. We continue to work with them. We have not yet completed all the works, but we have had sufficient information to move forward with the case, and we continue to do that.
And I will say, in addition to what Mr. Hilton has spoken of, the story about the renovation of the home is factual.
It's factual. The room has been completely tiled. We've seen where signs of paint job. We've seen signs where items of furniture have been changed.
In terms of when a body or when a person who is deemed to be dead is taken to a medical facility, the role of the doctor is basically to confirm if the person is dead. If the person who pronounces an individual dead is not even requested to attend court, because after that, it triggers other processes. For example, post-mortem. So essentially, that's it. So I heard the issue about how in relation to the instant case, why the doctor that pronounced the individual dead did not see that he suffered gunshot wound. That is not the role of the doctor, really. It's the post-mortem that will reveal that. So in the instant case, it was the police that requested the autopsy to be done. So I know that the issue of cover-up is a public discussion, but if the same police officer who went on the scene requested a post-mortem to be done, then in my own understanding and assessment of that, there is no inkling or inclination that there is a cover-up, because the post-mortem really is to reveal the cause of death.
Andre Stevens, you have been a voice out here for the voiceless for many years. You have stood in the face of injustice when it came to justice for Donnelly. In fact, it was Donnelly's case that propelled you to popularity. You stood on the front line, you picketed, you protested, and you made sure that this case never was forgotten in the eyes of the Jamaican public, and of course, in the face of a potential miscarriage of justice. You were a stalwart support for the mother of Donnelly. Now, that case, as we can see, has resulted in some favorable outcomes. And we are still waiting to see whether or not the charged murderer actually comes forward with some kind of appeal. But why is it that despite the fact that you posted this about Melissa Silvera, you were so horrified about her death, that all of a sudden you are coming out to state that Jolyan Silvera is not guilty of her murder? What do you know that the Jamaican public needs to hear? And why are you sitting on information that clearly only you alone are privy to? Or maybe you and the rest of the people who were potentially involved. I want to know how it is that you can so blatantly come forward to tell the Jamaican public that this man did not kill his wife and should not have accepted a plea deal. what is it that you are aware of, that you are hiding from the public? Now, if you are standing for injustices in our society, I want to know if the only injustices you stand for are those where the PNP are put in positions of positivity. Is it that you are afraid to criticize a party that you clearly do support, despite the fact that you on numerous occasions pretend as though you are not on a side? It is clear that you are anti-Andrew Holness, anti the JLP, anti anything the current ruling government has to do or say where Jamaica is concerned, and you are pro the opposing party. So, if somebody in the PNP constituency has committed a horrendous crime, are they above reproach where you are concerned? Is it that you would rather twist and manipulate your audience into thinking that they are completely innocent even when all fingers point in their direction? Let me tell you something. Even if, let us follow along with your lines of reasoning, even if Jolyan is innocent, as you claim, of manslaughter, Jolyan Silvera actively covered up the crime scene. He covered up the evidence that would have been necessary to properly prosecute him. So that leads to reasonable doubt that puts him in a position where he can get away with the crime. And just a reminder of exactly how this went down. Take a listen.
After a brief question and answer session, Jolyan Silvera was handcuffed and whisked away in a waiting police vehicle parked outside the Major Investigation Division Thursday night. His attorney, Peter Champagne, who spoke briefly to the press, insisted his client is innocent.
Of course, there is concern, and what I will say is that he is maintaining his innocence, and we will see what happens in the process.
But the police say they have enough evidence linking Mr. Silvera to his wife's murder. Initially, it was reported that Mrs. Silvera died in her sleep at home on November 10. Sources say a photograph of the scene after the police were called showed blood stains, and that ignited the suspicion of the investigators. Things began to look bleak for the former politician a month later, after an autopsy discovered bullet fragments in his wife's body. It further revealed that she was shot twice in the abdomen. That discovery triggered a new round of investigations by the Major Investigation Division, which is spearheading the investigation. The incident has resulted in widespread discourse, with Mr. Silvera's lawyer Peter Champagne cautioning social media, arguing that public comments could negatively impact the victim's young children. Melissa Silvera was laid to rest last Friday. Her husband, Jolyan, openly cried through the tributes as he clinged on to his youngest son. Of note, none of the tributes mentioned Mr. Silvera, including this one by former PNP President and Prime Minister P.J. Patterson. He said, "This tribute ranks among the most difficult to write. So much has to be left unsaid."
So you are making it clear to the Jamaican public that he knows that he did not commit that act of murder. He did not kill his wife. And therefore he should not have plead guilty to manslaughter, which he is now presenting, ladies and gentlemen, as a death based on provocation from his wife. So just so you understand the rationale behind the courts accepting his pleading guilty for manslaughter, I want you to listen to the reasoning behind the DPP's acceptance and the subsequent judge's acceptance. Take a listen.
Up first this evening, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has outlined its reasons for accepting a plea to manslaughter in the case of Jolyan Silvera, who was originally charged with murder in the killing of his wife, Melissa Silvera.
The details were outlined in a release earlier today.
It's the explanation that many Jamaicans had been waiting for. In an interesting twist, the prosecution accepted Jolyan Silvera's guilty plea to the lesser charge of manslaughter in relation to his wife's death. In a release on Friday, The DPP said the decision was taken following careful assessment of the evidence and the account provided by the accused. On February 2, 2026, the defense submitted a signed statement from Silvera admitting that during an argument with his wife Melissa on the night of November 10, 2023, he lost control and discharged his licensed firearm in her direction. Silvera claimed the argument escalated after his wife blamed him for the death of their young son and made statements he described as provocative. He told prosecutors he did not intend to kill her. He said he panicked and left the apartment. Prior to Silvera's guilty manslaughter plea, the prosecution said its case was largely circumstantial and supported by ballistic evidence, but it did not have direct evidence of what occurred at the exact moments Mrs. Silvera was shot. In the statement from the Office of the Prosecution, it pointed to the following facts. Sometime after 10:30 on November 10, 2023, Mr. Silvera told his wife and the children he was leaving to attend a meeting and that he would return the following day. Mrs. Silvera told him he could not leave, and then an argument ensued. The Office of the DPP release says this was extracted from a statement from the two children. It further noted that sometime before 6 a.m. on November 11, 2023, one of the children, who was 10 years old at the time, went into his parents' bedroom and discovered his mother's lifeless body on the floor next to their bed. The child noticed there was blood coming from her orifices and her dress was covered with blood. He alerted his brother, who accompanied him back to his parents' bedroom, where they both checked for signs of life from her body. They then contacted their father. It says Mr. Silvera indicated in a witness statement that he called the Stony Hill police station while on his way home. Mr. Silvera went into his bedroom and saw his wife in a sitting position with her head leaning forward. The policeman who arrived at the scene went into the bedroom, took a photograph of the body, and Mr. Silvera cried out. He did not further examine the body because Mr. Silvera was still crying. After learning that Mrs. Silvera did not have any known medical condition, the police indicated that a post-mortem would be conducted to determine the cause of death. He then contacted the House of Tranquility Funeral Home for the removal of the body, and then the policeman left. The post-mortem was held on December 15, 2023. The pathologist discovered that Melissa Silvera sustained 3 gunshot wounds, one to the right thigh, one to the lower abdomen, and a superficial wound to the right side of the abdomen. 2 projectiles were removed from her body, and the pathologist ruled that she died from multiple gunshot wounds.
Now, when detectives returned to this property just behind me on December 16, 2023, upon entering Mr. Silvera's bedroom, they noticed that the floors had been tiled, furniture had been sprayed over, the mattress was replaced with a new one, and the walls were also repainted. When questioned, Mr. Silvera told them that no one told him that he could not make changes to the bedroom. His phone and firearms were then later seized.
Ballistics testing confirmed the bullets recovered from Mrs. Silvera's body were fired from Mr. Silvera's licensed Glock pistol. Despite the ballistic findings, the DPP says the prosecution could not disprove Silvera's account of provocation. As a result, prosecutors determined they would be unable to evidentially negate the partial defense of provocation. The DPP says in the interest of justice and transparency and subject to the court's approval, the prosecution accepted the plea to manslaughter.
So now, I am going to just come to some conclusions that are purely in my opinion here. A child walks in and witnesses his mother's unaliving. And when he witnesses that mother, he then reaches out to his brother. His brother also comes and witnesses the situation. They then reach out to their father. Their father via messenger. The father picks up the message and then calls the police and returns to the property. Now, he later goes on to explain that in an argument, a heated argument with his wife blamed him for the drowning of the 2-year-old child. Now, remember, I did this AI video. I'm going to insert the AI video here that I created because the moment he said that he was pleading guilty to manslaughter, these were the initial thoughts that came to my head.
We look so happy, don't we? But what you don't know is that looks can be deceiving. Today my husband pled guilty to my murder, but why did he take my life? We were the epitome of the upper crust of society. While all glitters, our marriage was plagued by death. My 2-year-old son was in his care. He was found face down in our swimming pool. He claimed it was an accident, but how did this affect our relationship, and what else do I know that he didn't want told? When they found my body, he said I died in my sleep and couldn't even read my eulogy. But they discovered 3 gunshot wounds to my stomach. My body was cleaned and appeared untouched when they arrived. When a friend visited, she claimed she saw a drop of blood on my face. Yet she denied it later. So now that he has pleaded guilty to taking my life, will power, position, and connections afford him a light sentence? Yes, I am AI, but my story exposes that wealth and high society image does not protect from abuse. It also shows that the upper crust are treated with kids' gloves, often allowing justice to be prolonged. Justice must be equal, and Melissa Silvera must receive it for the sake of her living children.
Because we're not fool around here. And I often said that the drowning of the 2-year-old is one of those that really and truly was no accident. Yeah, man. So it's not a surprise to me that Anne-Marie Vaz is calling for an investigation into that death. Yes, because everything is connected, my people. Everything is connected. He is claiming that they had an argument. They fell out over this whole thing about the 2-year-old's death, the 2-year-old's drowning. And as a result of that, he turned on his wife and he fired his weapon. Now you tell me, if it was a crime of passion, provocation, and argument, and he turned around and he released one, how is this man so calmly going about his business to go on his business trip? These are the questions I'm asking Andre Stevens. Listen to what I'm asking you. How could this man just get up and decide, okay, I have unalived my wife and now I'm going to head off to my meeting. I'm heading off to my business arrangements and I'm leaving that body behind for my children to find. I am also asking the question, if it was an accident or it was just, a reflex kind of thing. Not just one, not just 2, but 3 points of entry were found in Melissa's body. 3 points. Well, one was a graze, 2 points of entry and a graze. Saw him do it more than one time, probably a third time, but one never enter. So 3 bullets were released from that weapon towards his wife. That is no longer about him doing a knee-jerk reaction, acting out of anger, because after the first and she dropped, he was supposed to know that her life is being taken, and that should have woken him back to reality. There should have been a state of panic. I am hearing a situation where this man, he in cold blood took his wife's life and did not care about the consequences because he knew his money and power could save him. And this is why we have 2 Jamaicas. The Jamaica for the rich and the Jamaica for the poor. Because now he's claiming provocation, knowing that the prosecution has no evidence to prove or disprove whether or not he was provoked. Therefore, they are giving him the benefit of the doubt. So, Andre Stevens, I'm asking you, if this man is innocent, there was only 2 other witnesses to that night and to that situation, and that those witnesses were his children. Are you suggesting, Andre Stevens, that the other persons in that household on that night are guilty if he's innocent? The first point of contact with that body was 1 child, then a second child. Are you implying that the children have something to do with the unaliving of Melissa Silvera? Honestly, people, I don't like using that word, but you know how YouTube stay. We have to be careful. We can't use certain words too often, it flags. But you know what I mean. Are you suggesting that these two children had something to do with it, as they were the first people to make contact with Melissa after the incident? Are you implying that when the man left the house to go about his business deal, that these children were probably mishandling the weapon which discharged towards their mother? Not once, not twice, but 3 times? Come on. You are saying he's innocent, so we have to now look elsewhere. We have to look elsewhere. There are lots of rumors going around where Melissa Silvera is concerned. Some of whom have stated that she was in some kind of extramarital affair. Some are claiming that, he did this because of retaliation for that, anger, jealousy, all combined. Is it that there's another party involved in this situation that you are aware of, Andre Stevens? You know about this person. You're trying to tell me that Jolyan Silvera is going to put himself in prison for the other man? I don't think so. It don't make sense. Because he would want him behind bars. If it's him involved, he would want him behind bars. He's not going to save his wife's dignity and put himself at risk of imprisonment. So that don't make no sense neither. So that only leaves the people who were present on the property at the time, and that's his children. And whichever other care worker or whatever that was there. If there was any security staff, if there was any house help, housekeeper, any nannies that looked after the kids, these are leaving questions unanswered. And when you bring these things to the public, claiming that you are a voice of reason and understanding, and you just leave it there, you throw a spanner in the works. And then because some of your people will not question, they don't say anything. But the people who are listening with some degree of intelligence will have to question the things that you're saying and wonder where you are getting your sources from and why it is that you have not been questioned yourself. Now, Andre was very, very adamant in bringing down Juliet Holness. No surprise, no surprise. This is always his agenda. The Holnesses are his ultimate enemy. Everybody knows this. And he was very vocal about Juliet Holness wanting to solicit the help of women when it comes to cybercrimes and the use of AI, because she has been accused by PNP bloggers allegedly of the following. Take a look at the video, at least one video of such that has been circulating. Take a look.
Kanju Holmes' wife Juliet name ends upon the murdered Melissa Silvera's family land title.
That's crazy.
Don't fret about the security, fret about the judge, cause one by one who no go into jail, one by who no go into, one by.
Now, this accusation is not a new one. This accusation has been floating about for the past 2 years. In fact, from 2024, as you can see from this timestamp here on TikTok. This post has been going around that Juliet Holness, she has acquired the land previously owned by Melissa Silvera. And, they're questioning the source of her income. I mean, I know that because, I don't follow politics to that. You can refer to other platforms of political nature. But it's not the first that we have heard this alleged rumor. But clearly now that we are ending up with a member of past member of parliament being convicted, Juliet Holness is now trying to rescue her reputation and to make sure that she is not implicated in any way during this process. She's clearing her name and stating that this has been spread as propaganda and that the document or whatever has been put forward is AI generated and not real. We had another blogger come forward to defend her. This is what they had to say.
The Supreme Court made the order November 4th, and I suspect that the same day that the both orders came, the Supreme Court orders came November 4, 2008, and the mortgage transferred from the bank, from Central National to Jocelyn on that same day. So maybe there was negotiations going on and things were going on, so everything moved very quickly. So Jocelyn then owned the property, and they had the title. The order for a foreclosure of the property came May 12th, 2017 to Jocelyn. So Jocelyn owned the land from then. Jocelyn sold the land in September 9th, 2019. They sold the land, and I suspect it was worth much more than they sold it for. They sold it for $60 million. They sold it in September 9th, 2019 for $60 million. So let me repeat just in case I was a little confused there. So Supreme Court order came down for these properties November 4, 2008. The bank, Central National Bank, on that very same day transferred the mortgages and debts to the Finsac owners, Jocelyn, on that very same day. Order of foreclosure came couple of years after, and Jocelyn sold the property for $60 million. Who are the new buyers for the property? The new buyers for the property is a company called Sapphire Coast Development Limited. Sapphire Coast Development Limited. Their address is 195 Constant Spring Road, Kingston 8. That address is, that company is the address of the Kemlani family. The shareholders in that company, Sapphire Coast Development Limited, located at 195 Constant Spring Road, Kingston 8, the shareholders are Karishma Kemlani and a company in St. Lucia who are the majority shareholder. Kamishka owns one, and the company in St. Lucia owns the majority. Mrs. Holness's name is not, nor has ever been, on this property.
So when I saw this, I asked myself, people, what Juliet Holness name I do ya so? What is this? How fear name coming at this at all? You understand? Because this is very, very strange. And why is it that now is the time that she's been vocal and she did not address the rumor from its spread back in 2024? Why wasn't she adamant that no such thing took place then? I suppose then it was of minimal significance because the case had not been brought to the forefront, but now it is the media buzz. And of course, you know, Andrew Holness is very much aware of the impact of media. Now he's extremely sensitized to the misinformation that can take place on the internet, and he's going out of his way to address any such thing. So she has to fall in line. Now, I just find it also very interesting that she's twisting this from a gender perspective. It's got nothing to do with gender. Anybody can be a victim of misinformation, the use of AI to twist narratives, etc. And it really isn't a gender issue, but of course, you know, she was speaking in terms of women's rights during Parliament. So she had to, I suppose, have a reason to plug it in that forum. But it didn't make sense to me. I was like, listen, this is a problem right across the board. It's a cybersecurity problem. It's something that needs to be addressed for the good of the general public and not just for yourself. And it did come across as a very selfish agenda. Now, that aside, and that's just an aside, if this is not true, it is very easily proven by simply getting those titles published. And I had something. Publish the titles and let us see what the names are. So in that regard, I do believe that it is reasonable to request that these things are clarified using the legal documents that are accurate to disprove any rumors that are out there in the public. Because listen, acquiring property can happen in many ways. It does not have to be the case that she knew Melissa Silvera directly when she bought the property, if it is true. She could have bought the property after the property had already exchanged hands, right? And of course, when it comes to propaganda, people will deliberately omit essential information in order to suit their perspective and agenda and to push their own narrative. So we don't know if there was a more than one exchange of hands when it comes to that property before it allegedly ends up with Juliet Holness. And, you know, I think these are the kind of things that do need to be cleared up, because otherwise people are going to ask the question, was there a deliberate getting rid of Melissa Silvera for the purpose of acquiring her wealth. You know, there are questions around the Sagicor insurance where Melissa Silvera is concerned. Was there a huge payout that was pending as a result of her demise? Is it that somebody stood to benefit more than someone else? All these things are very essential questions that no doubt when they go through the process of trying to get a sentence or probably to even contest the manslaughter charge, these things will come to the fore. Indeed, Melissa Silvera deserves justice, people. And the only people who have got answers to this puzzle are Jolyan and his own children. They were present during the time of her death. And I find it extremely sinister, mysterious, and suspicious that Andre Stevens believes the opposite and is so adamant in saying so that he will tell thousands of people on his platform that this is the case, that this man is innocent. How is he innocent? How is he innocent? A man that retiles the room where his wife's body was found, repaints the room where his wife's body was found, replaces the mattress in the room where his wife's body was found, resprays the furniture. This is meticulous covering up we're talking about here. Serious corruption and pollution of evidence. This man went out of his way, and not only there, also in his children's room. So I am asking again, what was so crucial about his children's room that he had to retile his children's room? What was there that he needed to make sure was gotten rid of? Was there some tragic accident that happened within this family that resulted in the death of this woman, Melissa Silvera, that you're aware of, Andre Stevens? Why it is that you are so adamant that this man did not kill his wife? Now, according to Silvera, let us just revisit the details behind the plea to manslaughter. According to Silvera, during the argument, she made a comment about their children, which he found to be the final straw. And at that point, he lost control, discharged his weapon in her direction. Remember, as I said, discharged not once, not twice, 3 times. And then he panicked and left. Yet he was on his way to his business meeting. He claimed it was not his intention to hurt or to unalive her. But let me ask you this. You can discharge a weapon towards somebody and not hurt or unalive somebody. And what you going to do? It's not a caress. It's not a kiss. You're not throwing something gentle and soft. It's not even like you fling her slippers, my youth. You fire your weapon. She has to be hurt or unalived. So claiming that he panicked and left, he then said that he decided not to admit as a result of the thought of losing his children, losing both parents. How can they accept this so that he can walk away with a lesser sentence? So it is acceptable to take your weapon and discharge at your wife because of an argument. This is what we are sending across as a message from our justice system. That your wife can say something that provokes you and it is perfectly fine for you to take her life because you're going to get a less sentence. So as long as you do it because of provocation, you're just going to get a tap on the wrist. You're not going to get the full arm of the law. You don't have any evidence of this provocation. This woman is dead and gone. But you are looking at it as a likely scenario. It shows clear bias. If there, for example, was a camera footage, audio, something that recorded the argument, and you could clearly hear that she was provoking him about the death of the 2-year-old, then I would be more inclined to say that this was a fair decision that was arrived by the prosecution. You understand? But there is nothing other than the actual voice of the convicted himself. So what makes his voice so powerful to state that he did this out of provocation and you accept it, other than the fact that Jolyan Silvera is a past MP, is a member of the People's National Party, is also a wealthy man in the country of Jamaica. Because the ordinary man couldn't look upon no judge and say, boy, bossy, you want to say she tell me, say she give me bone in my head chip out. And so I just take her life. I never mean for do it, but just see red. And you would accept it. There are 2 Jamaicas. And this case shows that there are 2 Jamaicas. Are we going to accept manslaughter for the taking of Melissa Silvera's life on the basis of this man claiming he was provoked with no evidence behind it? I want to know how these processes, which have clearly gone so wrong, has not led to a deeper investigation into the whole handling of that crime scene, and how these police officers behaved, and how it was declared she died naturally in her sleep. How was that allowed to get out to the public? And how it is that now, whatever deal went wrong, they ended up presenting the right reason. It sounds like a deal went wrong, people. It sounds like somebody was paid to shut up, and that pay was not sufficing. It was not enough. Chief Justice Sykes, I want to know how you can approve the guilty pleas to manslaughter on both counts. I want to know how you're just taking this man's word for it. What camaraderie do you guys have outside of this case? I don't want to bring masonry into this, but there are many voices that say the same, that there is something, there is a reason why backs are being protected. And as for that Kamala involvement with that little bit of blood scenario, I find it interesting that Andre Stevens did not bring that back to the fore in the discussion. It isn't right to just be out here barefacedly protecting party alliances and politics in the face of a blatant injustice, a blatant crime that has taken place against Melissa Silvera. And the only reason why I am not going to go too hard into the Kamala situation was that she did later retract, despite originally denying that she made the statement about the little drop of blood. And she started to kind of backpedal on her original stance, which quite possibly earned her some more political fight later on in life. But you see, people, when you know the right, you have to stand up for the right, period. Cost it what it may. The truth has to be told. And when it comes to rich people, tapanaris, who's who, getting away with murder, we are in problems with our justice system. It should never be the case that because you are considered a part of the upper echelons of society, that you're above the law. And this is what I'm seeing going on with this Melissa Silvera case. Look at the grin on his face. He walks away knowing that whatever it is that he intends to pay as a consequence will be minimal in comparison to what he really and truly deserves. Boy, people, as them say, donkey say grong no level. And it really is not level in our island of Jamaica. Anyway, if you've made it this far into the video, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, hit that bell if you are new to my channel, so every time I drop a video, you are notified. This is your girl, Head Teacher K, and I'm out.